At the beginning of last season, when Troy Bayliss took over from Carl Fogarty, David Tardozzi said he'd found the new Carl Fogarty. He's obviously been proven to be right. Was it a surprise to you that he's done so well?
Not really, because last year when he came in, he got more points race for race than any of the other riders who are actually in the championship full time, and you could see it was only a matter of time really that once he got consistent, he would probably be a world champion. And I actually tipped him this year as well, so
At this stage when we're talking, the season has ended and Troy Bayliss is world champion. Where do you think he won it? Was it at Brands or was it earlier on in Japan?
I honestly think that he won it from the beginning of the season, because he went in with the mentality of being consistent, having this podium consistency, whereas last year what he did was try to win everything, so he was winning or binning. It was one thing or another. And although, you know, Bayliss is an out-and-out racer and does want to win races, I still think that he won it on his mental strength rather than anything else.
He actually said that in the interview that we've just seen in the programme at Brands Hatch. How crucial do you think it was, though, that he managed to haul himself up from 14th to 3rd on that day? It showed real world champion qualities, didn't it?
Yeah, I think he showed it all the way through the season. I mean, the one for me really was in Sugo. He battled all the way through really hard, and he said it was his hardest race of the year to get 1 point. And a lot of racers would have just thought, you know, sod it, it's not worth it. And he really pushed his bike way over the limit, because the tyres weren't, you know, were struggling with the Michelins in Japan. And he went all out for 1 point, and that to me, you know, spells out a future world champion, and I think that's what happened. Of course, it was really important at Brands for him to do that, and if anyone can come through the field, Bayliss is you know, one of the riders that does that on a regular basis.
Neil Hodgson had an extraordinary season as well, and but for some bad luck with the tyre stripping and with some electrical faults in Monza, he could have been battling for the World Championship this year, couldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. It's been really impressive. His mental strength again, you know, has been impressive. I think he's come in and proved a lot of people wrong. A lot of people were very sceptical about Neil, saying, you know, he doesn't have the mental strength to do it, and he'll come in and he'll be inconsistent. Well, actually, a lot of the problems, as you say, haven't necessarily been his fault. And I think next year, you know, you've got to remember he's on last year's bike as well. So next year, I think he'll definitely be vying for that championship, for sure.
Possibly the reason people are so sceptical about Neil was because he'd sort of been there and done it and not done it particularly well before. You know the riders really well. What's the change in Neil that's made him competitive?
I think 2 years in British Superbikes really sorted his head out. It was all a mental thing. It was obvious that he always had the ability to be one of the best, if not the best rider in the world. It was always a mental thing with Neil, and you know, he's admitted that as well. 2 years in the British Championship brought him right back down to earth. I think basically had too much too young, and he was it's cue for a song, isn't it? He was given this opportunity with a factory Ducati squad, riding with Carl Fogarty. He had all this money, and he just couldn't handle it. I mean, it's a difficult thing to handle, and he couldn't, and the pressure, you know, got to him. And so he went back to the British Championship and he did what he had to do, and now he's where he is, you know, he's back on track.
Let's take a look at some of the other characters that have come to the fore during this year. Ben Bostrom always looked like he had ability, likes to slide the bike around a lot. He's obviously an aggressive rider. In the past, though, I didn't seem quite as committed as this year, where he seemed really focused. Again, what's the change? Why is he suddenly competitive, do you think?
Well, for a start, he's on Dunlops this year and he was on Michelin's last year, so that's a mental thing. He's very happy on those tyres. He's got people around him that he knows very well now, so in terms of if you like, a team package, he's very happy with the people, and feels very strong with that. And I also think last year he came into the championship thinking it was going to be a lot easier than it was, and he was a bit shocked by it all. And he'd never really been around the world, and all this stuff was going on, and I think it blew his brains a little bit. But this year it's been a real sensation.
Do you think he's going to have to learn to conquer riding in the wet before he can be world champion?
Yeah, he needs to spend 6 months in the north of England, I think, and go to Cadwell Park a few times. Yeah, I think, you know, wet riding is you know, really imperative. This year we've had a lot of wet races, so that's something that he will definitely need to conquer to keep that consistency throughout the championship.
Is it true that some of the riders, I think Colin Edwards, were blaming you as a jinx for wet races?
Yes, I have been blamed for wet races before, but so clearly it's not me, is it?
We'll move on. Carl Fogarty has been tipping Ruben Zaus all season, and we were all beginning to point fingers and laugh at him because Ruben wasn't coming up with a business. Although, to be fair, he was leading in Monza before he chucked it away, and he did have a tendency to chuck it away. Yet suddenly at the end of the season, there he was. What's the change there?
That's quite difficult to say, really. Apart from maturity, I think he's always been an all or nothing rider as well. Even when in super sports, really spectacular to watch, really exciting. And same in superbikes, but you know, he didn't fulfil his potential till the end of the season. And now there seems like there's no stopping him. So I think next season is going to be more competitive than it's been in years and years. You know, the Ducati field is so strong at the moment, but I think the thing with Carl Fogarty, it was overplayed a little bit. I mean, you know, I know Carl really well, and although he did rate Ruben and did want David Todozzi to give him a ride in the Superbike Championship, I think that Carl feels that, you know, he has done really well this season, and I thought it took him quite a long time to come through, but, you know, Carl didn't. He thought that he knew it would happen, and you know, to his credit, it did, and it just rode brilliantly towards the end of the season. It was a sensation.
How well do you think Colin has taken losing his championship? He's not much of a one for talking about it, but you get to talk to him more than most.
Well, Colin takes it on the chin, really, and I think they had a lot of problems this year. Honda had a lot of problems with their bikes. I mean, with mechanics and different problems and uncharacteristic problems for Honda. I mean, I don't think Colin would blame that for losing the championship. He'd probably blame himself. But, you know, looking at it as an overview of the season, they did have more problems than perhaps for sure, than they would have wanted to. I think it was difficult at the end of the season for Colin because certainly at the last race, I found at Imola he was very down. I think, you know, the tragedy had just happened in America and he found it pretty difficult, and really, I don't think he really wanted to be doing that last round at Imola. I think he was like, well, there's more important things in the world. So he'll be back next year and hungrier than ever and in there with a fighting chance.
Were you surprised when Bayliss, having won the World Championship, then fought so hard in that last race at Imola and ended up breaking his collarbone?
No, not at all. No, I kind of knew it was going to be one of the most exciting races of the season. I've been to Imola with the Grand Prix bikes anyway, and I just love that track. It's just got that air of, you know, history about it. And
but he didn't need to, did he?
Yes, he did need to. This was the whole point. He absolutely needed to, because when he won the championship, he couldn't race 100% because the championship was at stake. So he knew he couldn't go full on, and he hates that. He couldn't stand it. And Ruben was right there with him, and you know, he knew that Ruben could pass him. So at Imola, he wanted to prove that, you know, I'm the world champion and this is my race, and I'll just take this one, thank you very much as well. So he wanted it more, I would say, than anybody else.
Now, Honda, I presume, won't sit back and rest for next year, because it's looking very good for Ducati, with Hodgson doing so well, with Bostrom doing so well, with Zout suddenly showing his form, with Bayliss world champion.
And with young James Toseland coming through as well.
Yeah, so what do you think, how do you think Honda will react to this?
I think they'll do what they always do, and they'll give 100%, come out fighting. That's all they can do, isn't it, really? I mean, if Colin didn't want to win the championship, he would quit, because he's all or nothing. I mean, he would just go off and do something completely different. I don't think he would come in half-heartedly or just take a contract for money. He's not that kind of guy. So when he comes in and starts the season next year, when they go testing, when they go pre-season testing, he'll be testing to win.
Who's going to win next year?
Do you think I am a clairvoyant? Do you know, I think next year is possibly one of the most difficult seasons to predict, because the end was such a climax to this season. I mean, Zout, Bostrom, Bayliss, Edwards, Hodgson. Could be any one of those, couldn't it?
Ruben Zout is now showing his form. Who else do you think is a bright star for the future?
I think James Toseland was brilliant this year in bedding himself into the series and just doing everything he had to do, really, just getting used to all the tracks and the life and putting in some good results. And he got better and better and better in his qualifying, got better and better all season. He's a very intelligent guy, and he's only 21, so, you know, he's got years and years to go, and he's going to be really, really good.
Why bikes rather than cars? Why aren't you into Formula One in the same way?
Because Formula One is processional, and I think the reason why people are so into Formula One, a lot of it is the media hype, and it's seen as a very sexy sport, celebrities and money and all the hype that goes with it, whereas bikes is actual racing, and you have overtaking, and it's exciting to watch. Formula One is not, unfortunately, exciting to watch, not in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, because they got traction control, they got launch control.
Well, it's so staid now, and it all happens in the pits once you've worked out the pit strategy. You know, what is there to watch? Nothing for me. You know, whereas with the bikes, you could have one of 6 or 7 or 8 different riders vying for the lead. I mean, in the Imola, in 3 seconds, you had 3 different race leaders. So you never see that in Formula One. You know, everyone gets excited over one overtaking manoeuvre in an hour and a half of racing. I'm sorry, I want to see it every few minutes. I want to see it every few seconds, and that's what you've got in Superbikes.
Why do you think the riders trust you, that they'll talk to you? Because very often you get comments when a lot of the others won't. On the television during the races, when they roll in and the shutters go down, you're the last thing seen going underneath the shutters.
You're not supposed to see me. I'm supposed to be hiding in the corner. I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, I've been working in that paddock for 5 years now, and I've never ever stitched anybody up, and I would never do that. And I get on with all the riders really well, and I think if there's a time sometimes where I won't ask them a question because I think it's not the right time to do so, then I don't do it, and I won't push my luck. It's a question for them, really, that, I think.
But you have to know your subject for them to be able to respect you and talk to you about what their race setup, etc. Is that important to you, to know the detail of the subject?
Well, I don't think you could do the job if you didn't, really. You might be able to do one race, but I don't think you could do 5 years, for example.
You seem to have changed the way that bike presenting is done. You come to Grandstand. I know you were with Sky before. Do you feel like it's a special section of Grandstand when you go in, or are you just pleased to be part of Grandstand?
No, I'm so excited. I still can't believe that I'm on Grandstand after doing, you know, working for 2 years with them. Yeah, I do feel it's different to a lot of the sports on Grandstand, and it is presented in a different way. And I think, you know, before we did bikes, you wouldn't necessarily get the presenter in vision as much as I have been. I suppose it's a different format, but it suits the bikes. You know, it's very energetic, it's very sassy, and it's very live, and it's just very, very there, and it's not scripted. You know, and I just walk along the grid, and whatever's there I talk about, and it's kind of different in you know, to reporting and presenting a lot of sports in that respect. But it seems to have gone down really well, which is good. So I'm still there.
Let's find out a little bit more about Suzy Perry. Where are you from?
Originally from Wolverhampton. Grew up in Wolverhampton, then lived in Japan, then moved to London for 10 years.
And do you support Wolverhampton Wanderers?
Yes. Yes, I do. And at the time of filming, we are top of the table, which is the first time in 500 years, I think, that we've been top of the table. So, up the Wolves.
Do you ride a bike yourself?
Mm-hmm.
What sort of bike do you have?
I've got a Ducati Monster 750, and I've got a Honda CBR 600, the F Sport.
And what car do you drive?
Honda S2000.
Is that the one we saw you at the beginning of the programme?
Yes.
Is it very nice?
Yes. It's like a bike on 4 wheels, I think, because it's quite responsive, you know, to your actions. So that's why I love it.
What other sports do you like?
Well, tennis is probably my next big love. Cameraman's sticking his tongue out. I'm not quite sure why. Tennis, athletics, football to a certain degree. I wouldn't say I was a die-hard football fan, but I do support Wolves, and well, I've just said it there, haven't I? Really?
You're doing other programmes.
Just big sort of events, really.
You're doing other programmes now on BBC television away from sports. Does that mean that sports fans and bikes fans can expect to see you disappearing and moving away from motorbikes and onto mainstream TV? No,
not really. I think I can still encompass the two together. It's difficult because of the schedules, but obviously with sport being at the weekend, and then or the daytime shows I do are in the week. So it's quite a tough 7 days a week, you know, for the whole season. But no, at the moment I want to stay doing both, so I'm keeping both going at the same time. Last thing I'd want to do is leave bikes.
Tell us a little bit about the people you work with. Lee Diffie, first of all. I understand there was a bit of a t-shirt incident at Brands Hatch.
No, it's a battle ongoing between Stavros, Steve Parrish and Lee Diffie. They just always try and get one over on each other. Very funny to work with them both. Very dangerous too. Yes.
I understand he's to be seen pogoing after races often at the Po Boys concerts.
Lee likes a good night out. Yes, he does. That's fair to say. Either a Thursday or for sure a Sunday night.
And he has been seen to pogo.
There's a bit of pogoing. It's an Australian sort of pogo, so it's a little bit different to what we know as pogoing. But yes, you can pogo very well to the Po Boys, and Lee does do that rather special move.
And Steve Parish is known for being a bit of a nutter. During his racing years, he was a bit of a nutter, wasn't he? And he's done some amazing things. He's calmed down a lot now, now that he's got older, hasn't he?
Nope. No, he just spends his whole life thinking about what jokes he can play on people, namely Lee or myself or any of the BBC team. So, not really. I think he spends 2 weeks in between races either racing his lorry, eating his Yorkers, or thinking of, you know, tricks he can play with mice or, oh, you name it. You know, anyone that knows Steve Parish will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Do you want to let us in on the number plate issue?
Well, he's got... It's very well known, but he's got a number plate on his car, which is I think it's PEN15. So you know you can spell that out for yourself. And when it goes into winter, he gets one of those illegal small number plates, and he deliberately puts it on his car, so he gets stopped by the police, and then he says, "Well, it's very cold today."
And Plummet Airways?
Plummet Airways is Steve's own airline, and we fly to Assen each year in his plane. He promises us window seats, which is obviously every seat because he's only got 4 seats, and we have in-flight entertainment. That's Lee and Steve just having a conversation, and in-flight catering, which I missed this year because I had to fly out later, but apparently last year it was hobnobs and water, which we weren't very impressed with, and as we had gold cards this year, it was very good. Yes, they had prawns and little canopies and everything. Steve had made them all at home, so very impressive. Plummet Airlines.
Now, what do you like to do to relax?
What's that?
You've been pretty busy, haven't you?
Just being my friends really is the most relaxing thing. Favourite thing to do is have friends around for dinner, but it just doesn't happen very often. And sleep, which I don't get much of.
Are you the luckiest person in the world doing your job?
Yes, you know that. You know that. You tell me all the time. I am the luckiest person in the world.
And where can people find out more information about Suzy Perry?
Most tabloid newspapers on a Sunday. Yes, thanks for that. I would say the best place to find out things about me are on my website, because I write it myself, so it's all true.
Which is?
www.suzyperry.com.
How good's it going to be next year?
Oh God, it's going to be so good. It's so going to be good, and it's going to be so good. It's going to be fantastically, excellently, brilliantly, wonderfully better than any other motorsport or any other sport that you could possibly think of.
Is Norrie coming back?
Oh, I wish. At this time of filming, they are talking about it, but I think somebody would have to lay out an extraordinary amount of money to get Norrie back.
Just quickly, Norrie Yuki Haga, who you did interviews with in the first year that we saw it on Grandstand, was great fun and couldn't speak any English, as far as we could see.
Ah.
Not true, is it?
No. Cuts his own deals. In English. Fluent.
So he's having you on, isn't he?
Yes. Yes, basically, yes. Although we did, when he first came into Superbikes, with Sky, I did interviews with him in Japanese, English, sort of half and half. Because I could speak a bit of Japanese, so we used to do half and half. But then, yeah, I mean, Norrie can speak English now.
Wouldn't it be great to have him back in the series?
Oh my God, it would be so cool to have Norrie back. Yeah, it would. I mean, not, yes, for his riding style, but he's a character, you know, he's big character, so, yeah. But Darius is a character too.
And just finally, on a slightly different subject, GPs, pleased that Rossi's going to win it? Looks like he's going to win it now.
Yeah, I love Valentino. I mean, same relationship I had with Norrie, I had with Valentino when I was doing GPs, so it was that English-Italian thing, although he can speak English now as well. What, genius. Valentino, genius on a bike.